today we're going to be talking about scoring and slipping our clay pieces together. Using the score and slip method is extremely important when working with clay, especially when you're trying to attach pieces together. It is the two-part step that you always must do when you're attaching two pieces of clay together if you want to ensure that they actually stay together and that your objects don't fall apart when they're in the kiln. So, step one is, of course, to have some clay. You will need some sort of sharp tool that you can scratch with. I'm using a needle tool, but you can use, let's say, a toothpick or something like that. You're also going to want either a cup of water or a cup of pre-made slip. Now the question is, what is slip? Slip is basically a very liquidy clay. It's a clay that has a high amount of water in it mixed with it so that it becomes sort of sticky and slippery, hence the word slip, like mud. Now I'm making some slip right now with my fingertips and some clay and just the water, and this sort of sloppy, sludgy, sticky sort of material that I've just created, this is called slip. You can think of this as the glue for clay. It's what helps make the clay pieces stick together. But putting just slip on your clay and sticking your pieces together is not quite enough. We need a little bit of extra grit to hold those two pieces together. So the first thing you're going to do is get your objects created that you're going to put together. I've cut a round shape and I have got two round balls of clay and a coil of clay that I'm going to put together just to create a fun little smiley face. It could be decorative like I'm doing. It could be something that's more functional. Maybe you want to have a cylinder that you're attaching to a base, or you're putting a bunch of shapes together and sticking them together to create a box. Maybe you're putting a handle on a mug and you really want to make sure it sticks. It really doesn't matter what you're attaching as long as you're using the same technique that I'm about to show you. So step one is to score the area. To score something means to make little scratches and grooves into it. Not cut it, but scratch into it. So what I'm going to do is figure out where I'm putting these objects, and wherever these objects are going to go, I'm going to scratch or score just in that area where something is going to be attached. So whatever's going to be covered up. So you're definitely not scratching the entire surface, just using your tool to scratch almost like checkerboards on top of each other. Over and over and over again. You're scratching one direction and another direction to prepare where things are going to go. Now, if your object is large enough that you can scratch on that other object as well, that's wonderful. Sometimes this isn't really possible. Sometimes the object that you're attaching is very, very small and it's really not possible to do that. But if you can, it's always a good idea to do so because it helps create a little extra texture and a little extra grip. Now what we're doing is we're creating some grooves and indentations on our clay pieces before we attach them. And the reason why we're doing that before we put our slip on is we want the slip to be able to sink into these cracks and grooves, and it's going to help interlock them together. So if you can imagine that my fingers are the cracks and the grooves, and then when they go together, they're going to sort of interlock into each other, and it's going to help hold them and create a suction to keep them together. So if you don't have any pre-made slip, the slip that I just showed you, which a lot of people keep in cups, like little yogurt cups with lids on them just to always have them, you can use a brush and kind of brush them on. You can also just use your fingertip and a cup of water and add a little bit of water on top of the scored area and kind of create slip right on the spot. If you rub it too much where you can't even see your grooves anymore, you can re-scratch it. And once you have your slip and scoring applied, take your pieces, put them on top, and don't just gently place them on there. Give them a good bit of pressure. Push down and really give it some good pressure so that they'll stay in place. And you can kind of tell that you did it right if you can kind of almost, in some cases, hold it by that object and it won't fall off. Sometimes you can tell by kind of just tugging on it gently, and you can sort of see that it's sealed together. And that's all there is to it. Again, if I just take the piece without slipping or scoring and I just kind of push it on, it might look like it's going to stay part, but it will easily just fall right off, especially when it dries. Clay tends to shrink a little bit, and what will happen is these pieces will just separate and will fall apart in the kiln. So it's really important that you don't just take objects and just push them on and say, oh, I'm done, because like I said, they will easily fall right off with barely any effort at all. So instead, it's important to use your tool, whatever it might be, to scratch the surface of wherever you're attaching something. And again, if you can scratch the original surface, that is a good idea too. And then take some water and help create some slip, or use actual pre-made slip to help create some sticky glue-like material that you can put together. Take the object that you're attaching, give it some pressure, push down on it so you can make sure it's actually attaching well. And then check by just sort of tugging at it gently or pushing on it gently to make sure it's not easily coming apart. And that is the slipping and scoring technique.